All right, so recording has started. I'll start the class, but first I want to make sure everybody should, or please make sure that your devices are running and internet connection is available, because I need your interaction in this class. And please, the topic will be a bit new. So we'll talk about functions. So whenever you have any concern, any thing that you want me to repeat, any question, please raise your hands and I'll respond to you. You can write text in the chat box, or of course you can use your microphone. So I'll start sharing my screen. All right, so today topic will be about the functions in programming. It's new to you, that's why I want you to concentrate with me and focus. And as I told you, whenever you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask, and just raise your hand to avoid any interruption. First of all, I want to perform some diagnosis test. You know, in diagnosis test, a simple question or a simple set of questions that worth 0 marks. It means there will be no marks on this, but it's for us to understand and to measure the effectiveness of the class. So I'll start with you now. I'll just share with you a simple assignment. And again, it's not a quiz. It is just a diagnosis test that I can use to measure the effectiveness of the teaching and the class, the teaching methods. So now you have the assignment. Please, everybody should answer this assignment. It won't take long. It's 3 simple questions. All right. Then we will see after explaining the material, I will give you the same assignment and we'll see if your answers will be different or the same. All right. So I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. So now only 4 open the assignment. Please, everybody should open and respond to this assignment or test. All right, very well.
مستر.
Yes.
تكلمت عن assignment.
It's not assignment. It's a diagnosis test. It means to measure. It's test for me, for the lecture, not for you. It's 0. It's worth 0. It is worth 0 marks. Okay. There will be no marks for this assignment. It's just to highlight and to draw your attention on the most important topics that we are going to discuss. So I want you to keep in your mind the questions, because after the lecture I will ask you the same questions and I want you to answer them. Okay, take 2 more minutes. Let's see who submitted already. All right, 1 turn in. By the way, the student who didn't join yet, I will not take attendance this lecture. I will consider all the people who are not did not participate in the assignment as absent, because it's 1:37. That means 7 minutes left. 7 minutes passed from the lecture. All right, please submit your answers. I'll stop accepting responses. All right, so now 8 responses, which is good. Ten, very good. Sorry. The students who are viewing the assignment, the questions, please submit. Submit now, please. So now I have 10 only. 11. 12. As you can see, I will stop accepting responses. So please, you have, I'll give you 30 seconds more to submit your answers. Still, I have a lot of students who are viewing, but they didn't submit. Please submit now. All right, then I'll stop accepting responses now. Okay, let's see the questions. The first question was, of course, as I told you, I'm not expecting that you are aware of these things, but I just want to draw your attention that these are the matters that we are going to discuss, and you have to pay attention during the lecture. So let's see the responses. The first question is, the function in programming is used to calculate arithmetic operations, one only. Modularize the code, 8, and implement the code that is used frequently, 6. All right, very promising result. The function in C++ can return 0 value or 1 value, 2 values, or any number of values. All right, focus on this because the answer will be included in the lecture. In your opinion, the best description of the function is code, take data, process it, and return the result. 8 answered this. Code which is written outside the main function, all right, linked to mathematical operations. So I'll keep this now. Let's discuss the functions. Let's explain everything, and after that we will see the answers, the correct answers. Also, I want you, if you have editors or compilers, to start them because I want you to participate here. If you don't have compilers, then one of the online compilers, you can use one of the online compilers like this one, cpp.sh, the one we used before. All right, and now we'll start with the lecture. So, functions. The highlights. First, the main things that we are going to discuss is functions, types of functions, overloading, and templates. Of course, we will not discuss overloading and templates in this lecture, but because we need more than one lecture to cover all the material. So the functions. Before discussing or before explaining what the functions are, let's consider the following code, okay, which reads two integers. I'll convert them to make them three integers, okay, and print their sum. So assume that we have a code that reads three integers and prints their sums. And in this code, of course, as you know, first I will write include IOStream using namespace std and integer main. Now the code is to read three integers. That means in the main I need to declare integer x, y, and z, and print their sum. Also, I will add r for result. So in every step we'll write cout enter an integer, right? And then cn x, again cout enter an integer, and cn y, cout enter an integer, and cn z. All right, r equal x plus y plus z, and cout the result is r. Okay, so this is the code, this is the program. If you can see here in this program, we have part of the code which is repeated frequently, like this one, this part, right? And the cn also. So if let's think about it like this. If I take this part and convert it into a function, okay, then I don't need to rewrite it again and again. I will call the function and execute the code. Of course, it's not only for simple applications, but in more advanced application, you will find that you can write function for any code that you want. So this is the first example that we want to think about it, of the benefit of having the functions. So if I go and write this code, okay, of course, as we agreed that every time I'm writing this, just to keep it that you have to write it every time in every program using namespace std. All right, and here integer main. Okay, integer main here, integer x, y, z, and r. Okay, cout an integer, semicolon cn x. I will copy and paste this. So enter integer, the second one I'm going to read is y, the third one is z, and r equals to x plus y plus z. All right, C out. The result is okay, is R and ENGL to start new line. All right, let's execute it. All right, no, it's still the old one. I didn't build it, so I need to build it here. Okay. All right, enter an integer. Let's say 2 or 3 and 1. Then the result is 6. Press any key to continue. So I'll keep this now. After explaining the functions, I'll show you how to convert the redundant code into a function. Okay. So let's get back to our discussion. Now, what's the redundant code? Now, as you say, in the previous example, the redundant code, I prefer to share with you the printed one. It will be clearer. So here, okay. So this is the printed code. It's the same thing. Here I've written it with my hand, and here is the printed code. It's the same code. Okay, so let's get back to the slides. All right, here. So what's the redundant code? If you can see here, as we said, C out enter integer and C in is redundant. Every time it's repeated the same instruction, the same content, except of course here I have X and I have Y and Z. So the redundant code is mentioned like C out, enter, and the message, and C in. So C in here, okay? Can we write it only once and use it multiple times? Yes, the answer is yes. If I use the function will answer this question. Now the definition of the function, the functions allow the programmer to modularize a program. So if you have a program, okay, contains a lot of instructions, okay, then you can take every related, and remember that I'm talking about related code instructions, and convert them into a function. Like maybe you can take this one and convert it to function 1, this is function 2, and so on. In this case, I'll have modules instead of very long code, very long program, that it will be very difficult to chase the error. It will be very difficult to debug it. Then I'll have modules as functions. This will make it very much easier to find the error and to debug the errors. So allow programmer to modularize program, have, in other words, having a long code divided into smaller piece of or chunks of code and call them functions. Local variables. Now we need to talk about local variables, because here previously when we wrote the programs, we used to have, after the include and the using, we used to have only one function, which is the main function. All right, and in main function we defined integer x, for example, integer y. All right, so now from now on we will be having more than one function, but main function is a must. In every program you should have a main function, but the other functions are optional. You may have one function, two functions, 100 functions, depends on the application at hand. So here we are talking about local variables. not only in the function in which they are defined. I don't know if I have space. Let us just add a blank slide so we can scratch a little bit. All right. All variables declared in a function definition are local variables. So here, if you can see, let's assume I have this code. All right, then I have here function. Let's define a function. I'll put it in a rectangle. I'll call it function 1. I have another function, function 2, and of course I have the main function. Of course you can have more than this. Main, integer, main. All right, the main function. Now if I declare here a variable, suppose that I declared here integer x inside the function. All right, then when I use this integer x in another function, although they are in the same program, in the same file, all right, if I say, for example, cout x, then I'll get error. Why? Because x here is known as local variable. Local variable means only the function 1 can deal with it and knows it. Outside, nobody knows it. No function, no, even in the main function. If I go to the main function and write cout x, I'll get also error. So this is called local variable. Now, this is local variable. And local variable is not only inside the function, only this function, only here. Here's where we can use the local variable. Now, what if I want a variable that I can use by all functions? In this case, I have to declare a global variable. The global variable usually comes before any function, like here. Okay, here, global variables. All right. If I declare here a variable like, let's say, integer a, then when I use this, when I write cout a, this is not error, correct. Why? Because it's a global variable. Because here, let's write it. A is a global variable. Also, I can use it here. Cout a. Also, it's possible. So this is the difference between the local variable and global variable. And let's summarize things. In global variable can be used by any function or any code in the entire program, and its value will be the same. All right. While local variable are the variables that are declared inside the function and can be used only by the function itself. Like, let's go back to this. Here, x, y, z, and r, all of these are local variables. Why? Because they were declared inside the main function between these curly braces. All right, they are none here. Any time you want to use them here inside between these two braces, then it's correct. But outside, it's impossible to, not impossible, it's not correct, and you'll get error to use them. Okay, so this is the definition of local variables. Parameters. Now, The other thing that related to the functions are the parameters. Local variable passed when the function is called that provides the function with outside information. Now, also, I need another slide, blank slide. Okay, now the parameters. Suppose that you have a function here. Okay, let's call it integer read. Of course, I'll show you how to of integer x, or not read. Give it any name. Anyways, here if I for example passed an argument, this argument is called parameter or variable. All right, this parameter. So how to access the contents of this function, the functionality, the instructions inside this function from outside the function, I can access them. Suppose that this is the main function, integer main. Then I call the function by name. All right. For example, integer x equals read of. Now I have to pass this argument. Okay, of 5, for example. So 5 will be passed to this function, and x will take 5. For example, if I have here cout x, that means x will be printed to the screen. Okay, so these are called parameters. These are, or this one called parameter. Okay, and sometimes parameters, because here we passed only one parameter, but usually we may need to pass more than one parameter. All right, so these are the main three definitions I explained to you. Now let's go to the functions and see the function definition. Create customized function 2, of course, to take the data. And by the way, not all functions take data. This is the general format, all right? And not all functions return result. We will see we have 4 types of functions, all right? So take in data, perform operations, and return the result. It's just like the function in mathematics, although it has nothing to do with mathematics, all right, or arithmetic operations, but it means I have function, I have the main function, or of course any other function, and I have the function that I've written. I'll pass argument or parameters as data. The function will process these parameters and give me the result. All right, this is the basic idea of the function. How to write the function? Format of for function definition. Return type. First, you have to know what you are going to get. So return type means the type of the result. If you are going to return integer, then the function type should be integer. If you are going to return, let's say, double, then the function type should be double. So the return type here, the function name, you can give any meaningful. Actually, it's not. There are no regulations, no rules for the selection of the name. Although there are some regulations of naming convention, which are, let's just remind you, only letters and numbers, the names, right? Remember, and then variables and underscore. Okay, cannot start with number. It means you cannot call a function 2xy. All right, this is not correct. And of course, the third and important, no special character can be used. What are the special character? It means you cannot call the function function star 1, 2, 3. This is not correct also. But other than this, you have the right to call the function any name. But usually, as a convention or agreement between the programmer, usually the function names should be meaningful. Like if, for example, if I ask you to write a function that finds the maximum, for sure you will think about the name max, or someone else may call it maximum. All right, or max2. All right. No, if you change the name or you select name like ABC, I will not tell you this is wrong. This is not wrong. But what would you understand when you find a function with the name ABC? All right. While when you see max or maximum, you understand that this function can perform or find the maximum number and max2. For example, you understand predict that will find the maximum number between two numbers. So, sorry. So we finished the first two things. This is the return time, the function name, the parameter list. Of course, you can pass one argument, for example, integer x, or two arguments, or any number of arguments. We'll discuss them one by one. Here inside, you will write the functionality of this function. You will write the instructions that can perform some operations. And this is an example. So integer square of integer y. First of all, integer, the returned value is integer y, because here I'm passing integer, and return y times y, that means y integer times y, integer times integer is integer always, right? Integer, so it will return an integer. That's why the type is integer. The word square, I think it's quite clear that it's a square. It finds the square, and integer y, of course, this is the passing argument. By the way, be careful. Sometimes you select keywords or names for the functions which are keywords. You cannot call the function cout, for example, because this is used and reserved by C++ itself. All right. So, function prototype. Before continue with this, let's go back to our example. Okay. Example 1. I'll give it name example 1. Now, after we understood what the meaning of the function is, we can change this to be or to use functions. Now, who can tell me which part I can use as a function? So let's go to this discussion. First of all, function can be written either before the main function or after. Basically, I will use before because it's easier. After, you need to declare it and then define it. So I'll consider this at the beginning. For simplicity, I'll use only the one before. So I'll define a function. What should I call it? Like read int. Okay. Why read int? Because I'm going to read an integer. This is the name of the function. If you don't want to call it like this, name it any name. But as I told you, it has to be meaningful. All right. Of. Now let's ask ourselves, what arguments shall I get from? Should I pass to the function? Here I don't need to pass any argument. Why? Because the functionality, it will read an integer and send it back to the main function. So I will leave the data type also to the end. What I will write here? first, if you notice that I'm reading x, which is local variable, but it's not declared, so I'll declare it here, integer x. Okay, and cnx and return it. Now what's the type of the variable I'm going to return? I'm going to return x, which is integer. So the type of the function is integer as well. All right, now we don't have any errors. I'll take this and explain to you in more details. All right, I want you to link things together. Here, if you can see, let's ask ourselves 3 questions. What parameters should I pass to the function? Okay. What instructions or what functionality will the function do? And finally, what is the return value? Okay, now the function is actually this should be number 1, and then this 2, and this is 3. Why? Because I want to ask myself, what will the function do? Let's see. Here the function will read an integer and return it to the main function. Okay, so from this I can exclude or conclude all the rest. Now read an integer, that's why I call the function read int. Again, it's not mandatory. You can call it xyz, you can call it abc, it's up to you, but usually we prefer to use meaningful naming. And also, if you notice that I used uppercase at the beginning of every word, because you cannot use read and space integer. This is not allowed. Space. I cannot have space between or in the name of the function. Okay, so you can use also read underscore integers, up to you. But remember that the name is case sensitive. That means if I call it like read with capital letter, I have to call it with the same name. I cannot call it like read int with a small a. This is not the same function. All right. So integer read integer. So now number 1 is read integer. Then what parameter should I pass to the function? The function will read. Focus please here. The function will read from the keyboard an integer and return it to me, to the main function. So it doesn't need any parameters. I'm not going to pass any parameter. That's why I will leave the parentheses empty. Now, again, ask yourself this question. What the function will do? It reads parameter and return it to the main function. That means I have return. Okay, so return x. I read the parameter integer x, cout enter integer, cn x, and after that I return x. But what's the type of x? It is integer, and since it's integer, then the function type should be integer. This is the logic that you need to use when you write any function. Okay, so let's get back to this. Now, instead of writing this code, okay, I remove all this and replace it with function or calling the function. So x equals, remember the name here, read capital letter, and I and T also capital letter. So I will write it, read, and of course it will give you suggestions. See, this is read integer, all, and semicolon. Okay, y equal read integer, semicolon, and xyz equals read integer also. Okay. Now, again, before I see somebody is raising his or her hand. No. Okay. So before execute this, let's see what will happen when we execute it. Again, I'll take it and discuss it. All right. So the execution will be like this. First of all, of course, as I told you, main function is a must. Every C++ or C program should have main function. So the execution will start from the main function. I'll come here and find the declaration. When I reach this instruction, x equal, I found the name of the function. Then what I'll do, I'll go there and execute this function. It doesn't need any parameter. All right, so I'll pass no parameters. Inside, I'll find integer x. By the way, accidentally, this is x and this is x. These two x's has nothing to do with each other. All right, so here, the function will print enter an integer, then cnx. I will enter the integer and return x. That means it will return x and put it in this x. Next, y, read integer. Y also will call it, and it will read x and return the value to y. All right, z will be the same, and then after that, I will write r x y x plus y plus z, and the result is r. So let's execute it and see. All right, so enter integer 2, 3, 1. All right, this is the. I'm not quite sure if it was executing the old or the new one, so I'll rebuild it again. All right, successfully. All right, we don't have any problem. So let's execute it again. All right, so enter an integer, give 4, 5, and 6. So the result is 15. Now, if you can see, I will also share this with you. In our presentation. Okay. So this is the answer of the same question, or example number 1, using functions. All right. Okay. Function prototype. As I told you, there are two ways or two possible ways to declare functions or to write functions, either at the beginning of the program or at the end of the program. This will be left to next lecture. By the way, I'll share this presentation with you, but please don't print it, just read it. And because next lecture we will update the presentation, and also I'll upload it to Microsoft Teams. So just download it, read it, and after that we will use the updated ones. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to our assignment. All right, not assignment, the test, and we'll answer the questions. First of all, function has nothing to do with arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations is part of the functions. When you want to write a function related to arithmetic operations, up to you, but it's not mandatory to be like this. Modularize, as we said, yes, it divides the long code into smaller chunks and can be executed like this. Implement the code that is used most frequently. This is what we did when we use cout and cin, and we used it several times. Then what we've done, we moved this into a function, and it was enough to call the functions. All right. Actually, this one we didn't answer clearly, but keep in your mind the function in C++ can return only either 0 if it is void or 1 value only. It cannot, it's impossible to return more than 1 value. In Python, yes, in Python it's accepted. For those who are studying Python now, it's accepted to return more than 1 value. But in C++, if the function is void, that means it doesn't return any value, then it can return 0. If it is a regular function, it can return 1 value only. All right? Any number, no. Those who answered any number, no, it's not correct. The other thing, in your opinion, the best description of the function is code, take data, process it, and return the result. Correct. It takes data and process it and return the result. Code, which is written outside the main function, also correct. We've written the code outside the main function. Linked with mathematical operation, no. As I told you, mathematical operation is just an option. Any function, you can write any function, including those which are processing some arithmetic operations. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much. I'll stop recording now. And if you have any questions, please, we have 1 or 2 minutes to get your questions. Even more, I don't mind to stay with you till 2:30.